Hello, everybody. Today I want to be doing something just a little bit different than usual. I've been playing a board game a fair bit lately, and well, just felt like doing it for the hell of it because, well, I really like the game. I only got introduced to it, I don't know, what was it, like 4 months, 3 months ago? It's a fairly old game, but they are bringing out a new expansion. I think it's called Shadow Rift later this year. So I thought, why the hell? Anyways, so this is Eclipse, New Dawn for the Galaxy, with the expansion Rise of the Ancients. Now, doing a board game review can be a little difficult. A lot of setting up, a lot of pieces, good camera work, whatever. So I'm going to use all of the stuff on a computer emulation of the entire game. So that's what you're looking at right now is computer emulation. So I'm going to be going through everything you kind of need to know to get the game set up, started, blah, blah, blah. The first thing I'm going to say is, well, you need to organize all the pieces take out of the box. If you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see these four different colored areas or player boards, what they are, and each player has a different color. So you want to split up all of these round discs. Those are called influence discs. You want to take all these little blue cubes or colored cubes, which are called colony cubes, and split them all up. And you want to take, over here you can see ship pieces. These round things are star bases, and then these other plastic models for the ships. Most races have 3 colony ships, and then of course the race-specific diplomacy tile. Well, so specific to the race. And you want to kind of get all that organized together. Makes setup a lot easier. So for each player, sort them, store them separately. Player stuff. Now also there's a whole bunch of technology tiles. These on the left-hand side here on this custom supply board I have, these are your technology. So technology tiles, you want to take them all and put them all into one big bag. Best thing. Then you can randomly pull them out from a big bag without. Thing to note, those with Rising Ancients, it does come with additional duplicates of the basic technology tiles found in the game, and those should only be added when you have 6 more players. If you want to keep them in your bag, you can just choose that whenever you draw those additional ones, you just discard them and draw a new one. Replace it. Also, there are rare technologies. They will not have a gold shiny border around them like I show right here. What you tell gold technologies is in the bottom left corner of each technology, it will have a symbol. So the top row technology all has a star-like symbol or sun whatever. The middle row has these 4 squares, the kind of grid. And the bottom row has a cogwheel. Rare technology just has a plain, simple, round circle. So all of those technologies get split up. Now there's these thing called development tiles. You can split them all up. Then you've got all your ship part tiles. So this is all of the ship upgrade pieces that you can put on to upgrade your ships. Now again, these, I would suggest sorting all of these into some containers where you can easily pull them out and keep them pre-sorted for each game, because it's really stupid and annoying if you manually make these stacks to put on the game board each and every time you play, like it's kind of suggested in the really silly and gimmicky. So all of that gets split up, blah, blah, blah. You've got also your hexes here. On the back, you'll see a 1, 2, or 3. And all those systems, you want to keep them organized and something split up. Okay, so that's kind of the basics to get your box set up, ready to go for players to join you. Now we're gonna go through actually like setting up a game and going through a game a little bit and explaining a few of the things that can happen. Now, because this is a computer emulation, I do have this little window here to the left of the main map that says playing order, and it just signifies where players are. When you are playing at a table and you can see the players, you clearly don't need this. But there is a purple marker here that you put on whoever passed first or gets to play first in that round. The turn direction card, which you can choose to use or not. And basically the second person to pass gets to flip it over and change the direction of play if it's an advantage to them. In the middle here, you can see with all this nice blue pretty background, this is the map. You don't get something like this in the game itself. This is just because of the computer, I have a custom graphic on the background, custom grid with the numbering and everything. But you can see the middle here is set up, the ancient center. We've put this thing called the discovery tile here, a random one we've picked on there. And now you want to set, random center. I would say go with a random ancient dreadnought. Those always seem to be the best. The basic advanced, the basic middle core is extremely weak, and maybe it's good for your first game or two, but it's quite unbalanced. Some races have a huge advantage when that piece is out because they can attack it so much earlier than the other races, and the middle is very valuable. Also, I'll get into this later, but you can see there's three other hexes here. Those are the player setup. But anyways, before any of the player setup happens, I just did that in advance for this video. So you can set up the middle one there. Now, before you pick races or anything, there's a few things you want to do. First thing is you want to draw all your technology. Look at the back page of the rule book, and you'll see how many starting technologies to draw. You'll notice for a four-player game, I have one more technology than I should because I have this rare tech. Whenever you draw a rare tech, you draw a new technology. So I have one more than usually you would draw. Also, we've set up development tiles in this game over here. And of course, this custom graphic for a supply board is not what yours will look like. The rare technologies on this right, uh, 3x4 grid and these development tiles down here, there is no place on the board for them on the regular supply board. So development tiles, if you're going to play with them, you pull out the number of players plus one. So a four-player game, we pulled out 5. And technology, again, look at the back. So you draw all your technology, set up developments if you're going to use them, and then players select their races. Now, when you're selecting races, you want to think about how do you want to fairly select races? Do you want to use die and roll to see who gets to pick their race first? Because it can be advantage to, pick your race first. But what we like to do to kind of balance that out is if you pick first, you play last. And if you pick last, you play first. So you can make the choice. If you get to select first, you can say, well, I'm going to actually play first, which means I select last. And then each person in order can say, are they going to pick next their race or are they going to play next after it was already chosen? One of those two options. So in this case, we've got everything set up, and now the players decide to pick their races. We have somebody. So basically, the purple player here, or magenta, the Magellan player, he's going to be going first according to the card. So he's chosen to pick his race last. So that means that basically the black player picked his race first. He picked the Orion here. And then the white player decided to pick the Machinima, and then this player decided to pick the Blue Terrans, and now this player's picked the Magellans. So these players have all set up their starting homeworlds, starting hex, and their starting stuff on there. So as this player, I will want to take my home system, plunk it down on the board in the appropriate position, and I want to rotate the warp portals so that they're facing the right direction. You'll find this in the rule book on how to orientate those. Now I take an influence disc from my track down here. There's your influence track. Immediately take a disc, put it on that starting homeworld of mine, and then any of these planets which are solid color without the advanced symbol, I can populate those immediately. Now just zoom in a little bit here, and we take a look at the starting hex to get a better idea here. You can see I put one on the basic planet there that's, doesn't have this weird starry symbol. That weird starry symbol those are advanced planets, and they can only be populated if you have the appropriate technology that has that symbol on it for it. So for the orange or the money, it would be advanced economy. For the brown or the materials, it would be advanced mining. For the pink here or the science, that would be your advanced labs. Bother me otherwise. Okay, that has been recentered well enough for me. Okay, so the players pick their races, and they set up their starting board, and in addition to getting put those cubes on that influence disc on, you also get to put a ship. Most races, it's one interceptor. In the case of Black Orion here, they've got on their player map, there's a little tiny symbol that tells them, or if you look up in the rulebook, it shows place a cruiser instead. Now, take your little storage markers and put them on there's a colored tick mark around the edge of your player board here. Zoom in on that. And you can see these colored tick marks right here. And that's where you put your starting resource for this race. You get 2 science, 2 money, and art. Okay, now let's get back to some. Uh, to finish the game setup, you're going to want to have all your discovery tiles. You can see discovery tiles here. You want to have all your discovery tiles shuffled face down so that players can easily randomly pick one to populate on a system, draw those appropriate systems. Reputation tiles, I would suggest all of those just sit in a bag and then people can draw them out without looking. Same with technology tiles. Again, I suggest they all just be in a bag. Perfect. For the systems here, Hex 1, you pretty much you put all the Hex 1 systems into a shuffled pile face down, ready to be drawn. Hex 2, you put all the systems in face down, ready to be drawn. In some scenarios, technically, you're never supposed to have more in there, so if you added in like those special Rise of the Ancient ones, the Hive Worlds and the Warp Portals, you're technically supposed to discard back down to 12. I don't really care. And then System 3, most important that you limit those. There is a limit of how many System 3 hexes are allowed to be in based on the number of players. So look that up and adjust that one accordingly. For a 2-player game, there's only 5, yet for a 4-player game, there's 14. So very important that you adjust those appropriately. Again, just shuffle them for each new game and put them into a nice pile. There's one other thing you guys can consider too. We drag this over here. These are called ancient homeworlds. They can be added to add in additional static environmental challenges or fill out the map, so to say. If you're going to add in the ancient homeworlds, you do have to be mindful of all the warp portals. They'll now get rotated as if this was a 5-player game, or if we put the other one in a 6-player game. Now what you want to do is you also want to put a discovery tile and a random ancient cruiser on there. So you can see the ancient cruiser, there's the discovery tile underneath. When you defeat ancient cruisers, you get to flip them over and keep them for 1 VP. So we will just remove that, hide you, and there we go. We're going to set up without any ancient homeworlds. This is just a tutorial anyways, so it's not that important. Okay. So you've got everything set up. All your player boards are set up. You've got your little cubes out. You've got your influence discs out. You've got all the appropriate pieces that you need for your race out. Okay. Whew. A lot of stuff to go over. And it takes quite a while to do that setup. A lot faster right now on the computer. That's part of the reason why I wanted to show it to you on this little emulator of mine. Okay, so how exactly do we play the game? What are we trying to do? Well, the object of the game is whoever has the most victory points at the end of the game wins. Notice there's these little shield-like symbols here, and they've got numbers on them. They're kind of a little hard to see with how small it is, but there are definitely a lot of different pieces that have this number. If you look on the player board in this big gray space in the middle-ish, you get to the right, you start seeing these shields again with victory point numbers on them as well. Also, the back of the discovery tiles here, there's a 2, each one's worth 2 VP. And if we look at this reputation tile, which I'll just put right beside stack, I just drew one there. It has a little 4 on it. That is worth a lot of VP. That is 4 VP. You control one of those at the end of the game. Okay, so that's the general thing of the game. You're trying to get VP. There are quite a few different ways to get VP. We've got a little nifty scoring card on this computer version that just breaks down the majority of things. There's the hexes that you have influence discs on that you VP. Your technology track bonus. So in that technology track, whatever is the leftmost uncovered, the leftmost uncovered VP symbol that has a technology on the track beside it, I guess you could say. So, if I have technology filling 4 of a row, I get 1 VP. 1 is uncovered. But if I only have 3, I only get 0. So there's a 0 there, it's just not gold colored. Reputation tiles, I just showed you one. Whatever reputation tiles you have at the end of the game, you get them through combat, you get VPs for that. Diplomacy, there you get these little diplomacy tokens. And they're worth 1 VP if you have diplomatic relationships with a player. And then there's the discovery tiles, any that you kept for 2 VP, you get 2 VP for. There's these things called monoliths. Monoliths are worth 3 VP if you control that system and have an influence disc on a system containing a monolith. And then question mark, that's just any kind of racial benefit. Like the Magellan player here, every time he uses a discovery style, he still gets 1 VP. So that would be one of his bonuses. For Planta, they get an additional 1 VP for every hex that they have an influence disc. So that's the general aspect of the game, is you want to win with VP. Okay, now we've got that out of the way. Let's move on to actually playing the game. Now we're ready to start the first round. So our round marker on the scoreboard has been set to round 1. All the players know what technologies are out before they chose their race. So they can choose their races accordingly based on, is the technology they want out there, will they be able to research right away? They might have also said to themselves, hey, I want to pick my race last because I want to be able to research a certain technology that's out there. Something like improved hull is often widely sought in the first round. In this game, only 1 came up. So the purple player, or Magellan player, might be very, very happy that he chose to pick last so that he can research that right away. Also, on a note about the discovery tiles, while we're talking about researching, I want to just mention that with the discovery tiles there, they take their normal research. You basically research them the same way you would research technology. We'll get into what researching is in a little bit here. The only difference is instead of costing straight science, they cost a variety of different materials. So they can be money science or build material or any combination thereof other than combination of all three at once. Okay, first turn. Our Magellan player gets to play first. So he's going to take an influence disc from his track down here, and he's going to move it into one of these 6 actions. You have explore, influence, research, upgrade, build, and move. Exploring is basically just exploring new places. I'll show you that soon. Influence, I'll show you that later on, a very specific example. Research is what we're going to do. Research allows you to take the technologies if you can afford them. Upgrade allows you to upgrade your ships by placing any technologies you have or any of the basic starting free technologies for ships and placing it over your ship parts, your available slots. And then build allows you to build anything that has a material cost. This might be a ship, but it also could be orbitals, monoliths as well. And then there is move, and move is basically taking anything with a drive, which would be your ships, and moving them based on how good your drives are. So now we're going to choose research. So we put one in there, and well, I want to research that improved hull right away. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to put on my track. Notice there's a -1 on the square that I just covered up. You might not be able to see in the video, but it is there. And that improved hull had 4/3 in that big pink circle on the bottom. What that means is it costs you 4 to research, and then the -1 that I just covered up on my player board gives me a discount of -1 to that cost of 4. What the 3 means is that the cost can never go below that. So if I had a -2 discount, I wouldn't get it for 2. I still have to pay 3 at a minimum. So now I don't quite have 3 science to pay for it. So I'm going to use the Magellan special ability. I flip a colony ship over, which allows me to take my science and increase it by 1, and then I have 3. Because I have the -1 discount, I can afford it for 3. I move my science marker down to 0. So now I've just properly paid. Okay, now I signify my turn is done, and it goes on to the blue player. Blue player says, screw this, there's nothing else that I really want to research, because, well, I can't really afford anything. He doesn't have the ability to just flip colony ships to magically make resources, but the Terran is able to take 2 of any one resource, convert it into one of another resource. So if I wanted, I could take 2 money and I could take 2 material. I could trade both those in, give myself 2 more science, which would take me up to a total of 5. Still won't give me what I want. So I'm going to say, well, I have no ships, nowhere to move my ships. No point doing that. No point building right now because there's nothing to fight. No point upgrading. I don't have anything to upgrade. No point researching. No point influencing. So when you explore, you declare the target hex you want to explore to. So it has to be, you have to pick somewhere that you have a warp portal connecting to that target hex with an influence disk or a ship that isn't pinned on it. So in this case, he only has one system right now. So he's going to be exploring from a place with an influence disk. Of course, the ship also would allow him to explore if there weren't influence disks there. So he's going to declare target 3 back in the corner. So he'll take a target hex and he'll place it down there. Now he can choose if he wants to discard this hex, if it's something that's going to be difficult for him to play with as the game goes forward, or if he wants to keep it, he can then rotate it to make sure that one of the wormholes on that new one connects to at least one wormhole on a place that he's legally allowed to explore from. So later in the game, you might be able to explore a hex from multiple locations, and when you explore it, you get to choose how to rotate it so it can connect to any one of those places you could legally explore. So in this case, he says, screw it, I'm going to keep it. And I like that rotation. So he's going to put the discovery tile and 2 ancient ships on there. Now he's not allowed to do anything else with this because there's ancient ships on there until he moves enemies in and is able to not be allowed, will not be allowed to do anything else with that system. So he has to knock out the enemies first. Okay, so now he will signify his turn's done. We'll move on to white. White again will say, and then I really want to research, can afford. White also has to spend 3 of one material to trade in. So white's going to choose to explore, and white will say, you know what, I feel like doing 2. So again, has to be rotated appropriately. And then you can say, draw the discovery in ink. Okay, now black will say, darn it, you researched what I really wanted, that improved hull, and there's nothing else I want, so I'm going to explore as well. So black then will choose to explore wherever. I declares a tier 3 here. Wow, a lot of enemies today. And he'll say, yes, I draw a discovery in an ancient. And now it's back to our starting player. This will continue until all players have chosen to pass. To pass, you have to take no action on that turn, and passing is your full action. Okay, so our magenta player, yellow player will now choose to explore and also say, feel lucky, go with a 2. Okay, so first one to explore something that does not have a ship on it. Now, when you explore a system that does not have ancient enemy ships on it, you may choose to, of course, discard it. You may choose to just leave it there and do absolutely nothing with it, or you may immediately take an influence disk from your track and put it on that planet. If you do that, then you're allowed to flip over colony ships to put a cube down on any valid planets, i.e. you have to have the advanced technology on that money planet. One of my suggestions is to often leave your colony ships until later in the game, so maybe you don't want to do that right now because at any point during the round you're allowed to do that. So I kind of prefer to just leave that planet, influenced in case I want to end up populating it, but wait and see what my other explorers are before I actually start populating. Okay, signifying my turn's done, it goes back to the blue. We'll just run through a little bit here. Blue will say, well, you know what, I'll explore another 3, and ooh, look at that. That's a lot better than the last one. He says, I like that, I'm going to influence it right away. And he's going to just say, screw it, I want to take those resources right now. So move his resources onto there, and then his turn is done. White will do nothing other than explore. Usually early in the game, there really isn't too much to do than to. The white will say, well, you know what? Uh, this time I'll go for it. Okay. So this is kind of nice. Gets what's a free discovery tile, basically. So he puts the discovery tile on there. Now, there's no enemies on there, so that player can immediately influence it, flip over, and say, well, do I want to use that discovery or not? So if you want that one, you can take it, and because it's a ship part, you can either immediately put it on one of your ships, or you can put it off to the side and wait, put it on a ship later when you use an upgrade action. Of course, you can always keep it, flip it back over, and just take it for that 2 victory for the end of the game. For now, blah, blah, blah. For now, the white player will decide to put it on top of his cruiser, covering up his original. And if he wanted, he could flip a ship, populate that planet. So he signifies he's done, and now goes on to our black player who will explore again. Time he will go for another. Ooh, look at that. So he has to rotate it so he has a connecting wormhole. If he wanted, he could rotate it like this. It's up to him. As long as there's a connecting wormhole. And he'll choose to got to put a okay, it goes back to our Magellan player. Now, of course, at any point, a player may just choose to pass. And if they're the first ones to pass, they get to play first in the next round. That's the advantage to passing sooner. The other thing is you want to make sure you can afford your turn. So as we remove these discs, you're noticing that it uncovers a new number, and it's a negative number. That's how much money it's going to cost you to upkeep to be able to afford all the actions you've taken. These little cubes, as they uncover numbers, that's how much of that resource you'll get during your upkeep. And of course, on your side track is how many resources you have. So our purple player here will explore a 3 way down there. And oh, look at that, another discovery tile. So he puts a random discovery tile on there and we'll say, yes, I want to influence that. Take a look. and it's a free technology. It has to be the cheapest technology available that you don't already own. So he's going to say, yes, I want to take that because my part of my race's bonus is even when I use them, I still get 1 VP for them. So he's going to take a Gauss shield and put that on his track there. Not only does it allow him to get closer to his race's bonus of getting a free discovery tile on your 4th technology, it also allows him to make that whole track a little bit cheaper. So that can be quite good. So anyways, has to signify now that his turn is done, so we move on to our blue player, who the blue player kind of looks around and says, well, I can afford a few more turns, so I'll do another explore action, and decides to go for a 2. Looks at this planet, says, well, I don't really like this planet right now. I can maybe use it later, but I can't use it right now, so I'm not going to bother putting it on it. I'm just going to leave it alone. And then he passes his turn on to the white. The white player going to say, well, I feel like doing some more exploring. This time, I'm going to explore my 1 hex. Explores the 1 hex, decides, yes, I'm going to keep it, and now has to rotate it such that that player is able to connect to a system. And he'll say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to throw something on it right away. Go. And I'm done my turn. I'm going to wait to put my on. Now it comes back to our black player. Our black player is going to say, well, I'm going to build. So he'll subtract the cost of what he wants to build, which in this case is he subtracts 5, and he puts a cruiser down on any system where he has an influence dip. In this case, he's putting it down on his original. And now he'll pass his turn back to the purple. The purple player will say, well, I'm already at -5, and I've only got 2 money currently and 3 coming in, so right now I can just afford my turn. So, um, you know, one thing this player could do is they could use an influence action, move, remove discs from their board, or they can say, well, if I take too many actions, I can always go bankrupt at the end of the turn and remove a disc. In this case, they have systems here, could remove a disc from either of these systems. Or if he wants to just populate them right now, he could choose that. So he's going to say, you know what, I just want to pass first again. So he'll flip his card over to past, and now he's only able to take reactionary. So if we look here at, this is your action phase card. When you flip it over to the pass side, all you can do now is upgrade, build, and move. Above those actions, you'll notice there's only one of each now. Only one upgrade action, one build action, and one ship movement. The number of arrows after the ship is how many ships you can. So now he's passed, and the blue player says, well, I can afford one more, but do I want to take one more? Yeah, okay, I will. So blue player decides, why not? He's going to explore a 3 out there, and he says, well, it's one of these special warp portal tiles. Do I want to keep it or not? Because when you have a warp portal tile, any other system that has one can immediately travel to that system. But he says, you know what? I don't care. Bring it on. I'll do that. He will now influence that directly and get this and see, oh, look, that's a really good technology. I think I'm going to keep that. So now he's going to take that and put it onto, and well, I'll put it on my dreadnought. That's one. And he has a colony ship available if he wants to populate that planet. But now that he's influenced that planet, he's now at 7 for an upkeep cost, but only has 5 available to pay. So probably he'll end up bankrupting that planet. Bankrupting, I know it's kind of an advanced term, but we'll get over that soon. Goes back to the white player. The white player basically will say, you know what, I'm going to end up passing as well, so I'm just going to flip over all my colony ships, and I'm going to take a money, put it on that gray planet there, science for the science planet, and a brown for the brown planet. Now, gray planets can put any cube on. That's the nice thing about gray planets. One of any. And then he's going to say, yep, I'm passed. And because he passed second, if you guys are playing with a turn direction card, he could choose to flip that, but being straight across from the player who passed first, it makes no difference. And he doesn't want the black player going before him, so he says, okay, I'm going to leave it the way it is. So there we go, he's passed. Now it goes to black player turn. Black player is going to choose move. Now, this player has 2 arrows off the ship, means 2 ship activations. So he can activate ships twice. Every time you activate a ship, you want to look at the ship blueprint, and you want to take a look and see how many hexes are shown on the drives. Now, if we had brought over a different drive that has 2 hexes here, that one is able to move 2 hexes every time it's activated. In this case, his cruisers only have 1 hex. So he takes a cruiser, activates it, moves it 1 hex. Now, if he wants, he can take a second ship or the same ship and move it again. In this case, this ship is now pinned here. There's 1 enemy ship in the territory, and he has 1 ship. So 1 ship is now pinned by that other ship. But he's going to choose to move a second ship in. So now, if he wanted to move on a next turn, because he doesn't have any activations left, he could actually take one of these ships and move again. Or he can explore using that unpinned ship. So black player says he's done. The purple player has a chance to do a reactionary build, says no, I don't want a reaction. And the blue player says I will pass. White player says no reaction. So now the black player says, okay, I'm into combat because I'm passing. So he'll pass, we'll update action phase to combat phase. Now, combat happens in order from the highest hex number to the lowest hex number. Multiple battles. You want to just zoom right in and read that number. In this case, the center is 001, so it'll always be the last battle. And this one down here is 302, so it'll happen after any 303, 304, but before any 200s or 301. So now, do, 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 do. Now he gets battle. Now, how do we decide what happens in a battle? First thing that happens is if any players have missiles, missiles fire before combat even happens. Missiles only get to fire the 1 time, but it can be useful because you can destroy ships before they even get a chance to fire. On the technology board here, you'll see some plasma missiles. Those are missiles. You upgrade your ships with those ship parts. In this case, nobody has missiles, so we don't have to worry about that. So now we look at regular combat using cannons. Now, to decide who attacks first, you're going to look at the ship blueprints and see how many initiative they have. There's these little white chevrons. In the case of Black Cruiser, they have 1 for the drive and 2 outside of the ship blueprint. So they have a total of 3 initiative. Our defender has a total of 2. If it was a tie, the defender would get to attack first. But in this case, the defender has less than the other player, so the other player gets to attack first. So the black player will get to attack with 2 cruisers. Now what he's going to do is he's got a yellow die on each cruiser which he gets to attack with. A 1 is an automatic miss. A 6 is a guaranteed hit. It doesn't matter what computers or shields are. 1 always misses, 6 always hits. Now, speaking of computers, any computers you have, you get to add that to your die roll every time you roll. So if you roll a 5 and you have a +1 computer, which these cruisers do, a 5 then becomes a 6 and hits. Now, it's not a guaranteed hit because if your opponent has a shield, you have to subtract whatever their shields are. So in the case of the Ancient, he has a +1 computer. He should hit on a 5, but the cruisers have a -1 shield, so he only hits on 6s because the -1 will counter out that +1 computer. Okay, so 2 yellow dice get rolled, 3 and a 4, no hits. Now the Ancient gets to attack, 3 and a 6. Whew! 6 guaranteed hit. So now the cruisers roll again, 3 and a 3, they miss. Now the Ancient rolls 1 and 2, misses. 5 and a 6 from the cruiser. The Ancient has no shield, so the +1 computer allows a 5 to hit. Add 1 point of damage. There's only 1 round hull point symbol on that ship they're firing on. So once you've done damage equal to the number of hull points on a ship, the next damage kills the ship. So the second damage kills that ship, and now you get to draw your reputation tile. So for participating in a battle, you get to draw 1 reputation tile. If you participate in a battle, it means that you actually fought ships. You weren't just taking over. Okay, so the black player will draw 1 reputation tile for the battle, and destroying ships are worth reputation tiles. Ancient ships are worth 1. So he draws 2 in total, but he only gets to pick 1. So he'll pick the highest valued out of those. He'll keep it and return the other one back to the bag. Now, end of combat, you may choose to influence any systems you want. Doesn't matter whether you had a combat or not. As long as you have a ship in that system, you get to choose if you want to influence it. So he has ships in that system, and he says, yes, I do want to influence it. And Now I'm going to flip my colony ships and I'm going to put my cubes down. So put a money cube on this planet from earlier, and you'll get to put down a brown cube on the planet from earlier. This allows him to flip over that. And he says, well, if I take this free technology, I'm going to get fusion drive because it's the next cheapest one. And he says, you know what? Sure, I want fusion drives. Why not? So he gets himself free fusion drives because he already had neutron bombs, so he could take that one, and Gauss Shield and nanorobots weren't there. Perfect. Okay, now we switch out of combat into the upkeep phase. All the damage on the ships gets reset. And now everybody has to do their upkeep. Whew. Okay, let's start with the purple player. He was our first player. So the purple player, -5, has 3 coming in, means he needs to pay 2 more. He currently has, whoa. Oh, he also might want to flip his colony ships to populate as well. So flip a colony ship and flip a colony ship without a pink system there and a brown system. Okay, so now he has to move his money down by 2 and he's at 0. He can afford his turn. Once you've done your money, then you return any discs from your actions or reactions to your track, and you take your other resources, your science and your crown. Very important to do it in that order, due to the way bankruptcy. So he takes his 4, and he takes his 4. Okay, he's done his upkeep. Now we move on to the blue player. Blue player says, well, I have -7, 3 coming in, I need 4, I only have 2 left. I'm just going to bankrupt. So he removes the disc from planets until he can pay for his turn. So he removes 1 disc. Any cubes that were on that system would have to be immediately returned back to his track here, meaning he'll get no resource effects for them. So he returns that disc. Now he checks again and says, can I pay? He looks, yes, he can pay. Just exactly. Sets his money down, and now he can return his discs and take his other resources, 4 and 4. So both of those get to move up to 7 now. The white player, okay, he can afford his turn, not an issue. So he will say -5 plus 4. I have to take my money down by 1. Come on. And he gets 3 brown, 1, 2, 3, and he gets 4 pink. This back. Now our black player here, he's got -7, he's got 3 money, and he's got 4 coming in, so he just barely squeaks by and affords to pay. So moving that to 0. Oops. Now he'll take his other resources, so he gets 6 material and just a pitiful 2. Discs back to his back. Okay, he is now also done upkeep. So all players have done their upkeep. One player did have to do a little bit of bankruptcy, but did kind of plan. So we go into cleanup phase, you flip everything back over to its unused state, and then you go into the action phase of the round 2. So now we draw the new tech tiles. In this case, 4-player game, there's 7 new tech tiles to draw. Of course, if we drew any rare techs, we draw an. So now round 2 starts, and the purple player or Magellan player once again passed first. So that player is going to get to have the first action of the game. Now, there are quite a few things that we could do here. I don't want to spend forever, drawing out long process of playing a game. So we're going to skip ahead. Now, I want to explain to you, we've done the explore action in detail. We've shown you how the move action works. We've shown you the build action to a degree. We haven't shown you the upgrade yet or the influence. We have shown you the research, although we haven't researched any developments yet. It's the same process. The only difference is developments don't go on your research track. They go off the side of your board. You take the benefits or bonuses from them. Okay, so the blue player will give you an example of how to use influence, the blue player. So the blue player will choose the influence action. Now he gets to take 2 discs and move them. You may either take a disc on an existing system and move it either to a system that has one of your ships or is adjacent to a system of yours that has a disc on it. Now, one thing that's kind of weird though is I couldn't take this disc and then move it to that system there because then there was no longer a disc in the place I moved it from. So if I wanted to move this one, I could move it over there. Or I could just put Now, the other thing I can do is I can take a disk from my track and I can move it to any system target. So I can take that and immediately move it. Now, if I was to take this disk off and either put on another system or put it back on my track, I have to immediately take any cubes and put those cubes back on my track. So in this scenario, we'll say that he's taking these both, and we'll say that he happens to have advanced labs, because so what he can do is he did his influence to populate those. He can flip 2 colony ships, any number he wants, but let's just say 2 for now. So he's flipped 2 over to populate, and now what he gets to do as part of the influence action at any time during his influence action, he gets to unflip 2 colony ships. So once he's used up 2, he gets to unflip them again, and now he can continue flipping colony ships to put out the money and the other science. So that's one of the big benefits of the influence action. You can either take discs off of systems you don't want, you can put discs onto systems that you didn't have before, but also you get 2 extra colony ships for most races. Some races like Magellan only get 1 flipped up. So that's your influence action in a bit more detail. Now let's say that we've got um, our black player here has managed to pick himself up some additional tech. So, and we'll also say that our white player here has managed to up could pick up. Leave it at that. Let's say that they're both going to upgrade. Let's say that they've got a system to fight over. Throw out a random system here. Not a good one. Sorry, that. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I don't want that. That's a hive system. I don't want that. Okay, let's say this was already defeated. Populated. Wait for some. Put out this. Got that on there. Let's say that he managed to build a couple cruisers on here for defense. And again, we'll pretend that there's a wormhole connecting there, and we'll say that the black player managed to move 2 cruisers in to attack him. Now, let's say both players want to maybe upgrade their ships to make it better for this combat. So, our black player, he chooses upgrade action. He gets to put 2 ship upgrades on. So, he has available to him the +2 positron computer, the plasma cannon, and any of the basic free technology here, which is single hull, the nuclear source, basic proton, electron computer +1, ion cannon, or the basic drive. Of course, he can also add a drive on as well, because he does have that too. So those are his options, but he only gets to add 2 on per upgrade action. So now what he has to do is he has to always make sure he leaves a drive on ships. Starbases cannot have a drive. Ships always have to have a drive. So he has to make sure he has some kind of drive on his ship. Now he wants to count up his energy because he can't go over the energy. So he has 1, 2, 3 plus an additional 2 outside the ship. So let's just zoom in a little bit here, make it a bit easier to see. So he's got 5 energy available to his ship. Now, right now he's currently using 2 of that energy with a drive and a weapon. But when he puts a plasma cannon on top of his other weapon, he's covering one of those energy up when he puts 2 on. So now he's up to a total of 3. So now he's going to move positron computer on over top of his previous computer. Now he has 1, 2, 3, 4 energy used. 5 was the highest that he could go. His 4 energy, and he only gets 2 actions for this turn. So he hasn't gone over his energy limit. There we go. Now our white player here, zoom in one more time. He has available to him the +2 computer zoom that I've given him. So he will take a +2 computer. He has to put on his ship. Oops, that's the wrong one. The technology rather than the ship upgrade. Okay, so let's move that on there. And now he's maxed out his energy. If he wanted, he could put improved. Let's say that he did research better energy. Yeah, there we go. So now he can take an energy source, put an energy source. Now, Machinima has a special perk. They get 3 upgrades. So he's going to take an additional upgrade and put on another computer. Now, what he wants to be careful of, though, is he wants to look at his opponent's ships and see, who has more initiative, because that person gets to fire first. In this case, his opponent has 1, 2, 3, 4 initiative. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, but he's a defender. So right now he gets to fire first, so that's a good sign. So it means that he has a higher chance of winning this battle. The black player, again, will look at this and say, well, what do I want to do? I want to give myself more initiative. So he has an option. He can take away his shields and cover them up with another upgrade of another positron computer. He could cover the hull up with another positron, or he can take this fusion drive and he can cover up his drive just to get the extra, not necessarily meaning the extra. Because maybe in this case he doesn't want to get rid of his hull because there's a chance that he'll survive if only one die hits. He doesn't want to get rid of his shields because that makes his ship harder to hit. But if he's firing first, shields aren't as important. So he says, okay, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm going to put another computer on and I'll cover up my shield. And now he can choose to put this drive somewhere else. So he's going to say, or a second technology says, yeah, I'm going to do another upgrade on another ship to maximize my actions. That's his ship design. Now, the white player says, well, he can pretty much, he kills my ship if he rolls 1 hit, and he gets hit on a 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So I don't like the fact that he gets to fire first. So I think I'm going to put another computer on, but I get to fire first and hope that I manage to kill his ship, because that 1 health doesn't matter because I'm going to take 2 damage from his hits anyway. It won't keep my ship alive. So he says, yep, that's what I'm going to do. And also, he can use his other 2 upgrades to throw 2 more upgrade pieces on different ships. So he might say, over on my dreadnought here, I'm going to throw on 1 upgrade, 2 upgrade, and a 3rd. So now he has the energy to pay for all that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 energy with 6 of it. Oh, perfect. Now he will get to attack first in the battle. Woohoo! So there's upgrading. That's kind of shows you how ships, you think about the battle process. Ah, sorry about that. That was weird. Wow, this video is so long now. Okay, before we get into battle, I want to talk about one other thing. I want to talk about diplomacy. If we look at, say, okay, perfect. Let's say that blue has a disc here, and okay, so now these two races have a connecting wormhole, both sides of the wormhole, between planets where they have an influence test. These players may choose now to trade diplomacy. If they do, you would move your diplomatic tile onto the other player's board. That player would move theirs onto yours, and then you immediately get to take any one of these cubes and put it on there to get your resources. So that's cool. Diplomacy gets you extra resources. Also, it's worth 1 VP at the end of the game. The flip side is you cannot put a ship in any space that your diplomatic ally has a ship or has an influence disk. Otherwise, both players will immediately lose the diplomacy tokens, have to return that cube somewhere to one of these 3 tracks, and the player who moved in on the other player has to take the trader card, which at the end of the game is -2 VP. So these players did diplomacy. Now let's get into one more battle, and then we're gonna call it a wrap and say basically all the basics about how to play Eclipse. Okay, so we're gonna do cruiser on cruiser battle. Again, we already decided the white player upgraded his ships just to get that extra initiative bonus. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First 1, 2, 4, 5. It's a tie. Defender gets to go first. And defender has 2 yellow die, and he has so many computers he hits on everything except for a. So he's gonna roll 2 yellow die for 2 cruisers, which is 4 in total. So he gets 4 hits, and well, guess what, Mr. Blackie? You don't even get to fire back. Your ships are just blown out of the water dead. If he had rolled a 1, one of those ships would have survived the minute you fire back. And if he had fired back 1 orange die, he would have hit, destroying one of the white ships. But alas, didn't work out that way. So now, players draw a reputation tile. The black player Was not the first one in that hex, so he doesn't draw first. The white player. White player draws 1 for being in the battle. Cruisers are each worth 2. You're only ever allowed to draw a maximum 5 reputation. Uh, so he hit his maximum. If he had destroyed any more ships, he wouldn't get drawn anymore. So he's going to take the best one out of all of those, which is place it on his board, and then return all of those. And the black player destroying no ships only draw 1, but he can take that one and he can put it on his track here. Once you have this track full of reputation tiles, or if you want to do diplomacy at any point, then you may remove one of the reputation tiles to free up a diplomatic slot or to put a new reputation tile in its place. Okay, I think we've covered everything then. We've covered all of the different actions available to you. We talked about how to set up the game, talked about how to engage in battles and warfare. The only thing we didn't really go into was attacking the ancients. I guess we could do a quick demo on that. So if the white player moved in here, actually we did attack the ancients. The only thing that I didn't really mention is the ancients fire back. There's a special rule on that. The ancient ships, if they do damage and if they roll hits and can kill a ship, that's the first thing they do is they kill a ship, the biggest ship possible, and then smaller ships. If they can't kill a ship, then they assign their damage to the biggest ship based on Dreadnought being the biggest, Cruiser being the next biggest, Interceptor and Starbase being tied to this. But they will never fight a Starbase because, unless it's a hive system, populated. Cool. One crucial thing I just remembered, thankfully, totally almost forgot about it. I did talk a little bit about ship pinning, and I talked about that. One thing to note, I did mention it, but I want to clarify, is if there are multiple players in a hex, all enemy ships added are how many ships are pinning you. So if there's 2 from one player and 1 from another, and you move in, you have to have 3 ships just to match those 3 enemy ships, and then the 4th ship can move. But when you move into the very center of the map, it doesn't matter how many ships you have, the center fence pins everything, no matter what. And of course, when you have battles with multiple players, the player who entered the hex last fights the player who entered just before. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully this was a good way to show you how to play Eclipse. And it was totally a lot longer than I thought it would be. And for those of you who say this is not my usual content, no it isn't. I have no idea when I'll be doing regular content. So if you guys do send me a message and say there is something specific you'd like me to start doing, potentially I can try and see if that's a game I'm playing or something to do, but no promises, so ciao.